Welcome, everyone, to the Overseas Famous podcast. This week, we are joined by former NFL player, played for the Jets, the Eagles, the Cardinals, the Giants, the Bucks, John Booty. John, defensive back, known for your toughness, and we're going to talk a lot about that with your stint, especially with my hometown, Philadelphia Eagles. So, John, thank you so much. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Kevin, thank you for having me on the show.
Of course. So you did come in. Now, it's so funny because the year that you came in, and I have nostalgia about this because the year you came in, I was 11. I was watching. I remember we were walking through like the flea market with my dad, and the Eagles game was about to start, and we kind of were like, "All right, Dad, we got to go." He's like, "All right, we're gonna pass this." We went to this one. The one TV was playing it, so we watched. You guys had a monster defense. Randall goes down. Jim McMahon comes in. Jim McMahon getting Gatorade poured all. I remember those times very clearly, and I just remember how tough that defense was.
We were a tough defense. The 1991 defense. After the first game of the season, Randall goes down against the Green Bay Packers, and our offense sputtered. Jim McMahon was good. He was solid. But he gets hurt. But our defense, Reggie White, Jerome Brown, Clyde Simmons, Seth Joyner, Byron Evans, Andre Waters, Wes Hopkins, Eric Allen, those guys came together and said, listen, our offense is struggling. Our defense got to play some football this year. We got to play some football to try to get ourselves in a position where we can at least try to make the playoffs. And we took it upon ourselves to play extremely hard, even the new guys. I was a new guy that year. And Bud Carson came in, who built the steel curtain with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He came in, and once the guys, the Eagles who were there, bought into Reggie White and the guys, bought into Bud's defense of schemes, and knowing his background history, it's just started clicking. And with the playmakers up front on the D line and the secondary and the linebackers were just opportunistic, things just start happening. And our defense ended up becoming the number one ranked defense in the league across the board. That hardly ever happens. And we were just thinking, had Jim McMahon stayed healthy that whole year, and had we got into the playoffs, we went 10-6, and had we got to the playoffs, I think we all believe that we'd have made a run for the Super Bowl had Jim stayed healthy, because our quarterback, it was like a revolving door, after Jim got hurt. And the other quarterbacks were okay, but young, and it was just hard to get a mesh. And we had some talented receivers, and Fred Barnett and tight end Keith Jackson and Calvin Williams and Keith Byers as a running back, and our O-line just, we just couldn't click on offense as far as at the quarterback side.
No, I do. It was such a fun season, and you had that Philly toughness because like that was. It's funny when you look at the Eagles now and they have that toughness, and then you look around and you played in Philadelphia. The fans they want that toughness. They're a tough fan group. They're a tough group of people, and they want that toughness. So when you see things that happen out in the Sixers and the Phillies and the Flyers, people get mad because they're like, this isn't what our MO. This is what we want, and you guys personified that entire thing with how physical and tough you guys were.
Yeah, we did, because of the Broad Street Brawlers, the Gang Green group team. When I came over from the Jets, it was like my first meeting. I'm like, it was a players only meeting, and man, wow, I knew then that I had to come in with my game plan ready to work, because these guys were smart. They were mentally into the game. And they studied and they prepared themselves, especially defense. And Keith Jackson told me, said, John, you're going to like playing on the team, but you got to get ready for the city of Philadelphia because they're tough. And I'm like, oh, geez. I said, I know. When he told me that, they're passionate fans. They want you to play hard. They want you to compete to the bitter end. And they feel they have a sense of you slacking a little bit. They'll let you know about it, we were winning, though. Especially we were doing well on defense. We went 10-6 in 2001. I mean, I'm sorry, and season 1991. But We didn't make the playoffs, but they were like, okay, that defense, they still had that. The fans still had that Buddy Ryan mentality, but with Bud Carson style, made the defense that much more, made it better, enhanced the play on defense. And I agree with you got to come correct in Philadelphia and passionate fans support. I mean, even when they're losing season, we had some bad streaks there. The fans still showed up. In fact, I was at the playoff game this past year, um, and man, it was unbelievable. The fans did not sit down; they stood up the whole time. And I am like, wow, those are fans. I mean, they was giving it to they were playing the Giants in the playoffs. They were, and it was like, oh my word, nonstop.
Yeah, one of them may or may not have been my brother. So that was it's always fun. So coming out of college, we always talk a lot about in the show the different things that occur from a college into the pro, and then from pro into your post career life. So coming out of college at TCU, you go on to and get drafted by the New York Jets. The difference when you watch football now and you see the spectacle that is the NFL draft, and you see the spectacle that is what has become of this whole entire process, how do you compare that to when you came out of school in the late 80s?
Well, when I came out, we had 2 days of draft, draft days. It was a Sunday and Monday, and there was no fanfare. Guys would get with their agents and meet up at a sports bar or a place to find out if they got drafted or not by watching ESPN, or not find out about if they got drafted or not, but ESPN started covering it literally more in detail back then, not like it is today. But I was a second round, not a second round, but I was a second day draft pick on the 10th round by the New York Jets. And I was picked to go in the fifth or ninth, through the fifth and ninth round. And I ended up going to the 10th round. So I got kind of teed off because I didn't get, where I was supposed to go. So I had my agent take me back to the airport because I was in Atlanta, Georgia. And when I learned that when I got drafted, I was at the airport in Atlanta. And so my name was called over the loudspeaker. John Booty, call your agent. And I did. He said, you got drafted by the New York Jets. So I was celebrating with a lot of strangers at the airport in Atlanta. But those first at Sunday, guys with their agents or at home, and they get the call, or we didn't have the green room like they have now. We didn't have just the first round on Thursday and second and third on Friday, and it's a big production. And I will look at it now like, wow, we're born too soon, you know. So you get to the hype, and that's what drives the fans to go watch the games. Come to the games. They want to see. Now, is it more pressure on these guys since there's a lot of hoopla around them? Yes, they performed in college. Now they got to perform at a higher level. And I've learned it's a business, it's a man's world than it is from college. You can be a man amongst boys in college, but then you get to the pros. Hey, there's a lot of men. There are 52 other men on that field. Then you got 31 other teams you got to compete against too. So with the hoopla, with the production, it is I wouldn't say it's Hollywood, but it's celebrity driven now.
I think you hit the exactly what I was gonna ask about next, which was the pressure that some of these young athletes face. There is an immense amount of pressure. I mean, the NFL draft, and then you have the NBA draft. I mean, the NBA draft lottery is televised before a playoff game, and everyone's tuning in to see who gets, these picks. It's wild how much celebrity. So now you have this pick, and it's like the NFL draft. They already almost know who's going, and there's so much speculation, and they kind of know who's going first. So that pressure just surmounts as you go through. Do you think as a young athlete that is a bonus? Because we talked about Hollywood, you get so much more recognition and maybe your confidence grows, or do you think that's a negative where, you're putting so much pressure on yourself that if you don't meet those expectations, you can kind of falter?
Right. Now, there's several different scenarios here, or several different ways you can look at it, because with the advent of social media, a lot of these guys get seen their attention already before they get drafted, but they know there's a lot of pressure once they get drafted. In the first, has been particularly the first rounder, because they put a lot of money and stock on you being a performer, you know. So that pressure can either make you stronger, make you more competitive, because you know you got a lot of pressure on you to go out and compete, or you can get to in the bright lights, absorbing all this. You may not be used to it because it's something different. You're on a different level, at a highest level, and but then once you get into that city, and the expectations are for you to perform, and some guys can handle it. Some guys say, "Oh, I accept this." You know, they got to go in there humble, though, even though they're a first round pick, knowing that these other men around them, they're going to test you themselves to see what, are you worth that first round pick? That pressure, that added pressure. Now you got to learn, hey, I got to learn how to be a pro now. I got to learn how to get in here and study, work hard, outwork the veteran, and absorb some information from the veteran, so I can make plays and to help my team. And be a football player, be a basketball player, and let all other stuff just happen. Stick to what brought you there, your game, and have those goals set that you want to be that number one first round pick, or in the first round, or even a 10th round pick like myself, who ended up playing 8 years in the NFL. You can get that mentality that I can do this, and I want to help my team win. And by me performing, I'll help my team win, and then my accolades will come.
I think the when you talk about late round picks or second day picks or guys that go in rounds outside of the first, there's so many success stories. I mean, the one of the people who's recognized as the greatest quarterback ever to live, Tom Brady, later round pick, and there's a lot of guys who really make that jump. What was it for you? Were you, when you got picked, were you like, all right, I got picked, let's go? Or were you like, you know what, they should have picked me more. I'm going to go out and prove that to every person who I am, that I earned this, that I deserve to be here?
Well, when I got picked, when I woke up that Monday morning, and I was reading the paper, and it had all the guys who got picked in on the first day. In particular, the first and second, well, first through sixth rounds, we all got picked in the Atlanta paper. And when I saw this gentleman by the name of Terry Williams, who got picked by the New York Jets, a cornerback. So I'm like, Terry Williams, cornerback. And I'm just reading through it. I didn't understand who. I didn't think the Jets were going to pick me or whatnot. But besides Terry Williams' name, the school they said they had Texas Christian University. And I'm like, wow, this guy, he didn't go to TCU. That's my school. And I joked with my agent. I said, I've never been to New York, but you know what? It'd be fun to go to New York. But the Jets made a mistake with, they want to pick me, but they picked this guy's name, you know? So, and when the Jets finally picked me, I didn't think about it then, but when we had to go to minicamp, I said, I want to find out who this Terry Williams guy is. He's a big cornerback out of TCU, but he didn't go to TCU. He was out of Bethune-Cookman. I said, that's the guy who I'm going to see and watch and challenge, because the Jets made a mistake. They were supposed to pick me in the second round instead of him. So when I got the minicamp, the first day of minicamp, I was just shy and scared. It was all outdoors because I'm going from Texas to New York. And that was a journey itself. That was an eye-opening experience. So I saw Terry. I said, man, he is physically, he is what they think he should be. But I said, I just got to go out there and just perform. And my first minicamp, I just let it loose, and I was making plays all over the place the first few days of minicamp. And they were like, man, this 10th round pick that's my pick. I'm glad we picked him. And I didn't think about it, but I just knew that I had to go in and see who Terry Williams were. And that egged me on, just like going to another level, and that's what these guys got to do. They got to see who they got to compete against. If I go back and talk about my high school days, I didn't play football my freshman year, nor I did my sophomore year. And uh, I was a sophomore, and the varsity lost out on going to the playoffs over a coin flip. So that upset me so much that I decided to play football again. So I ended up making the varsity, the last guy on the varsity my junior year. And so I helped my team make it to the playoffs. Now my senior year, I shined. So what I'm saying is, I walked into the locker room watching everybody, seeing all my teammates, future teammates, and put myself, said, I'm gonna compete against the best guy in the room. And I took that mentality from high school to junior college to TCU, and then to the pros. I said, I can't go in there and beat my chest like I'm the man. I got to go in there humble and say, I want to still want to compete against the best guy, and I'm gonna use my mentality to make sure I can, because it's a mental game pretty much.
Yeah.
And I want to go out there and make sure I learn how to play, know how to cut the field off. But when a coach calls a play, he won't have to overcoach me or continue to coach me, because I want to be put myself in position that I mentally have this game in place where they don't have to coach me. Like, I've had coaches say, John, you coachable. You know how to coach yourself. And so that's what these players got to do nowadays. And the big bright lights, I went from a little small town in East Texas to Manhattan or New York City or Long Island. You're talking about bright lights. Wow. So guys, letting some cats.
I I think the underdog story is so big because I share the same similar path. Like didn't really develop until senior year in high school, then went on college and was able to get in the door. But it's just I think the underdog mentality is so big, and you represent that underdog mentality where you were able to keep forging ahead and not letting it bother you. And I think that's the right mindset to have. And I always say it's when you getting your foot in the door is very difficult,
Right,
but keeping that door open is
right,
really hard. So having a pro career that lasts that long, with that mindset that you came in with, we were like, this is what I have to do, is
right,
even more admirable because you showed that not only are you going to get your foot in the door, but you kicked that open and you left it open for a long NFL career.
and I tell the young guys, I said, I had a player for the New York Jets. He was a all-pro running back at the time, and his name was Freeman McNeil. And we were doing like what they call OTAs now. We had all-season workout programs after minicamp. And I did a vertical jump. It was like, as soon as I did it, everybody, like, it just went through the locker room like, man, did you see John? He just did like a 40-something inch vertical jump. And wow, so I go in the locker room, and Freeman McNeil sees me in the locker room and says, hey, son, come here. I'm like, oh my goodness, here's a veteran calling me, and he's on offense. What does he want with me? He said, come here, son, I need to talk to you. I said, okay. I walked over to the table and we started talking. He said, I'm gonna teach you how to be a pro. I said, huh? He said, I'm gonna keep my eye on you. I'm gonna teach you how to be a pro. And from that day on, when I finally made the team, I would always go get advice from him. You know, that's what these young guys have to do: find out who the veteran is, who's willing to teach you. It could be an offensive player, it could be a defensive player. But for me, it was an offensive player. I said, I want to teach you how to be a pro, and I took that mentality. I took his advice, and it helped me grow. Now I was a nickel back, dime back in my rookie year, second year, third year, and I eventually climbed that corporate ladder as a player, as a smart player and playmaker on third down situations. And eventually, every once in a while, I have a starting spot. Uh, climb that corporate ladder, being a full time starter. So uh, I tell guys, be a part of the team, want to help your team win, but knowing that you just keep going, keep going. You're going to impress the coaches. They're going to see that you have that mentality and you have the physical ability to stay on the field longer, and they have confidence in you to become a starter. And that was my journey. And so, yes, these young guys, they need to, or the players from back in my day, they knew, hey, back then they can cut you at any moment. We didn't have a situation to kind of like, okay, we got to mind this, we got to mind that. And plus, every day you have to be physical because you have to hit pretty much every day in practice, even during the season. So
Uh-huh.
you coaches believe back then, you tackle in practice, you get tough in practice. The game is easy. Some teams like San Francisco, like, no, we're gonna have this, and everything's high level. And I learned, and even in practice back then, if you drop an interception in practice, coaches will look at you like, catch it. Like, practice, but they're not, practice catching. Have perfect practices. You're getting the game, it should come easier. It's going to be
Mhm.
faster, but you should be able to just be able to make those plays that you're capable. You make the plays in practice, you'll make them in the game.
Do you remember any time specifically where you're able to reciprocate what that advice, like the teachings that you learned that rookie year, when you became a vet? Was there a player or any instance where you were really able to reciprocate that meaning or what you have learned your rookie year?
Yes, yes, I did. The guy kind of honored me at the used to be the NFL Players Association Unsung Heroes Award banquet. I'm sorry. Yes, Unsung Heroes Award banquet. Yes, when I left the Cardinals in '93 or '94 to sign with the New York Giants in this training camp, and the Giants brought me in the last day of right before training camp to sign me. My mentality is like they brought me in for a reason, and they had lost some guys. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and beat out whoever's in front of me. And but as we're going through training camp, and training camps were long, and there's one kid, and he was from Princeton. His name was Keith Elias, and he had the bandana on. He walking through like Rambo all the time, quiet. He was a running back, and he every day I would see him go to he go to the cafeteria or meetings at night, and he wouldn't say a word to anybody. I mean, he was just like honed in, and I went to him. I said, hey, I stopped him one day after our first uh, practice one day, and I said, "Listen, man, are you okay?" He said, "I'm okay." I said, "I'm gonna give you some advice, and I'm gonna tell you what another player with the Jets told me one time." He said, "Because I injured my neck," he said, "because he saw me worried about it. I'm gonna come away from this, and recover from this." He said, "Man, don't worry about something you don't have control over. Just go out and do your job, get healthy." So I told Keith, I said, "Keith, like you," I said, "Man, loosen up." I said, just go out there and play hard, man. Don't worry about what you don't have control over. You do that, things will happen for you. And he just looked at me and we just started talking. And he loosened up, and he ended up making a team. I forget what round he was, but he ended up making a New York Giants team. Uh, and to this day, every time I see him now, he's like, "Man, I still remember that advice you gave me just to loosen up and just relax. Don't worry about what I don't have control over. Just control yourself, and things will work out for him." And I think he ended up having like a 7, 8, 9 year career.
That's the stuff that a lot of people don't really realize. You see athletes, and you said it before, it's very Hollywood. There's you're inside on their lives, but you're never really in on that locker room. And having those shared moments between athletes is really what makes the game so special, and the camaraderie. The When you kind of were playing and kind of going towards the end of your career, when did you kind of start thinking about, hey, I need to think about the next step? I need to think about what I need to do to be successful post career.
Well, think about it. For me, my rookie year with the New York Jets, uh, when I was my senior year with the at TCU, we had this new coach come in. He didn't care too much about me, but he did say some things about because he was trying to bring in new guys because I was a senior. And he said, "I want you guys to write down your goals. Even though you want to write down your goals and you think you can play pro football, write it down. You want to own a business, you want to do whatever you want to do. Just write your goals down. Think about it. I mean, don't think about it all the time, but write them down." So I did put pen to paper and then wrote the goals down. And when I got to the NFL, I made the team, made the New York Jets team. And during the offseason, we can go back home during the offseason. So when I went back home to TCU, I enrolled in school, and and I would each off season I would go back to school and take some classes, and that was my goal, one of my goals. And I also wrote down a goal that I want to own something in the sports and fitness industry, and I want to be in that. And then my third year in the league, I had a not very good game against the Houston Oilers, and we get ready to play the Dallas Cowboys, and it's 1990, and media guy asked me, said, John, you just had a good game against your home state team against the Houston Oilers. Now the Titans. Now he said, you getting ready to play the Dallas Cowboys. How was it as a Dallas Cowboys fan growing up? I said, I was a Dallas Cowboys fan growing up. I said, my mom bought me a Dallas Cowboys uniform when I was 6 years old. I said, I look forward to playing against the Dallas Cowboys. And then he asked me, he said, after the game, we beat the Cowboys. After the game, he said, John, well, you got it. It's pretty nice. He said, what would you like to do when you retire? And I said, I would like to do what you're doing, get in the media, get in broadcasting. And he said, okay, you going back home in the off season and go to school? I said, yes. So he helped me this guy opened up a door for me to do an internship with WFAA TV, a Dallas TV station in Dallas, rather. Well, not rather, but WFAA TV in Dallas, do an internship. And I thought that was very cool. So I was setting the groundwork for all the things I want to do, when I retired from the game. And in 1996 was my last training camp. I knew it then. I had messed up my hamstring really bad. I knew I wasn't going to be able to perform at a high level. Even if I did, the team had signed me, I'd have been on injury reserve because this hamstring was really bad. So, so when I got home, I had that 1 year of finding myself, like I was disappointed. I wasn't depressed. I was like, wow, I've been doing this for a number of years, and what am I gonna do next? I love working out, so I go to the gym all the time and continue to work out, and got rehab on my hamstring from another former player who had a physical therapy business, and I learned while I was in the league to network, watch what the owners do, watch what the staff do by getting out in the community. So I would go and play golf, and people ask me, "What are you planning on doing when you once you finally give it up?" Not try to go after the game over and over and over. And I said, I want to open up a health club, and people started putting me in place to open up a health club. And I ended up opening up a health club, a world gym, like 3 years after about 4 years after I retired. Yeah. And no, 3 years. And then also I had not earned my college degree. The gentleman I worked with in New York Jets my rookie year, who worked with the guys to further get their further education, get their college degrees or masters. He worked with me and worked with TCU, so I was able to go back to school in the off season. Well, not the off season for me, but in the spring, and earn my college degree. So the things like that I was setting up. And while I was out and about in the community here in the DC area playing golf, and people were like, man, there's one media guy said, I know who you are. Your name is familiar. John Booty. He said, John Booty, you play for the Philadelphia Eagles. And everybody associated me with the Philadelphia Eagles in the Washington, D.C. area because the Eagles are called the Dirty Birds. They can't stand the Eagles. I said, yeah. He said, you're doing broadcasting. I said, well, why don't you come and be on a show every once in a while? And to the point where I built up some clout with them. And before COVID, I had during the football season, I was an NFL analyst for the season, and for a show once a week, which was cool. So that built up that. So the things that I wrote down is for my goals when I was in college, all pretty much came true. From playing pro football to owning a health club to broadcasting and doing community work, and now working with the members of Congress doing that charity work for the congressional football game. So I always try to put myself in a position where I can network with people, not try to overproduce so I can offer you this when I can't, but I knew my role. I knew my role playing football as a defensive back, as a nickel back, dime back, but I wanted more. And when the time came for me to do more, they could rely on me. So that's my mentality from since high school, pretty much. So writing those goals down and making that transition. Was it easy? No, it wasn't easy because I had to sharpen my personal skills as far as I wasn't an egotistical person, but I knew football was the thing that got me my foot in the door. But once I got my foot in the door, I had to produce what I want to do next, like broadcasting with the members of Congress or speaking at organizations and things of that nature.
No, you hit the next is always in your mind, and having that list is great advice and something you took and why you continued your success post career. So why Loot Mogul? Like Loot Mogul, we work with them a lot. Obviously, they sponsor the podcast. They're a great metaverse. What was it about Loot Mogul that you drew you in?
Well, Loot Mogul, what drew me in with Loot Mogul is that I saw something that we were trying to do a long time ago, like in 2007, 2008, with using a digital platform to help players build their brand. And I saw this, like, man, this is like Fantapper was the name of the company we were trying to start a long time ago. And the economy bursted and all that stuff. And some people say you were just you were well ahead of your time. And I saw Loot Mobile. I said, this is an opportunity for guys to utilize their brand. Uh, and it's not it's not a lot of hard work for them. And people, if you do it correctly, you can put yourself in position where folks can Google you, uh, remember who you are, and you have fans out there who want to know about you and are willing to uh, purchase NFT from you or use your avatar or have an experience with you know. And that what drew me to Loot Mogul. And Raj is a great person. I enjoy being around Raj and Tom Doyle and Tom and I have been knowing each other for a while and just seeing his energy. I said, well, Raj has a lot of energy with this, and his background speaks for itself. So like, I'm interested in Loot Mogul. Let's give it a shot. Let's work as a team and make things happen.
I totally agree. It's a great group, and it was the same. I was in the same boat. I didn't really understand the metaverse. They explained it, they taught it to me, and now I'm telling other people about it and explaining it to other people. That's like the level of learning where you really succeeded. You're like, okay, I was taught it, now I can teach it. It's like what they use in teaching all the time. Like, are you able to teach this to someone? And now I currently am, which is a good thing about the metaverse.
And for me, I'm like, metaverse, man. I'm like, okay, metaverse. This is what people want to do in the future. I mean, they want to be an avatar. They want to be in a space where they can walk around with a celebrity and do things with a celebrity in a virtual sense. And I like what Loot Mogul like what we're doing, and we showed Raj this when we first met him. We said, come down to DC and come to a game with us, and meet Gary Clark and Tom Doyle, and Raj came and we have a suite, and he came in and he met all these Washington Commanders, Super Bowl champs and legends. I was like, see, this is what we offer fans. If a fan work with us or business work with us, you want a game day experience? Here you go. I've taken people, you know, utilizing the metaverse world. We give you a game day experience. I've taken people to the Jets games with me, on the sideline with me, and they just like, wow. They get to hang out with an NFL legend, and then not just in the metaverse world, you can also go to a game with them and get on a game, get on a pregame field pass and all that, and then go up in a suite, watch the game with a player, and like, wow, how many folks get that experience? And so, looking at the metaverse world, that's one of the great potentials of it.
I agree, and the it provides athletes, like we talked about, that second step of your career where you have to figure out what you want to do next. The metaverse and Loot Mogul take care of a lot of players who are retired and are trying to figure out the next step and keeping that relevance and keeping that fandom going, which is, I mean, it's the next marketing and branding when you're able to get on a platform and have this digital platform where it's promoting you and it's promoting your name. It's so important. So I look at Loot Mogul as not just a physical and metaverse, but a way to continue
Right.
getting your accolades once you retire.
Getting your accolades once you're retired. Also, when people see that, they see that you're doing this, it can open up other opportunities for you. It may open up opportunities for you if you like to speak, get you some speaking engagements. And also, as older players, we still have to learn about this metaverse world, or what Loot Mogul is producing for us. There's younger people they still like, oh, these old guys, they don't know much, but you can see video or see history of these guys once you Google them, and you're like, wow, this guy was a player. I wonder what he's doing now. And then once you get to talk to the person or the player, uh, the athlete in person, and get to know who they are, like, wow, there's another example, setting examples of, you know, growing with the time and becoming a part of the team with the times, and learning, because in the future it's going to be what it is, but you can take your brand and leave your legacy by what you produced in the past.
It's very informative. This has been incredible because I've learned a lot about you as a person, and some of those little details, but also about how athletes can continue to be successful post career, which you really gave some great advice for. So John, thank you so much for joining us today and taking time out of your day to come on the podcast. We really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you guys appreciate you for being patient with me, because I had that technical difficulty. But yeah, thank you so much.
Well, thank you, John. This has been a really great show. This has been the Overseas Famous podcast. We'll see you guys next time.